to absolutely our alliance. It's not Russia. Russia has an economy. I mean, it's like one of our medium-sized states in the United States. They
but
don't
Belarus,
have
Kazakhstan, I mean, a bunch of autocrats. What have they got to say about peace?
For years, people laughed off the idea that Donald Trump wanted Greenland. They treated it like a bad joke, a headline designed to grab attention and disappear. But tonight, you're about to see something much darker. Because this isn't a punchline anymore. This is Trump's own former ambassador going on British television and treating territorial expansion like common sense, not satire, not exaggeration, a straight-faced defense of something no serious democracy should ever entertain.
Well, joining me now is Carla Sands, who was the US ambassador to Denmark during President Trump's first term. She is now a key figure in the Trump-supporting America First Policy Institute. Carla Sands, do you know what is going on inside Donald Trump's head when it comes to Greenland?
Well, I certainly don't have a crystal ball to know what goes on in the president's head, but I can imagine that he is working to secure the Arctic, the Western Hemisphere on behalf of the American people and our allies, like those of you in the UK. And I will just say briefly, I really hope that your leadership will do what President Trump is doing for the United States in the UK and make the United Kingdom great again. There's so much opportunity in the UK, but you're struggling in so many ways.
And I guess it's difficult when you're hit with tariffs, but I mean, that's a whole other issue. Isn't what's going on here that Donald Trump's trying to add territory to America? It's empire building, isn't it?
That wasn't an answer. That was a stall. And it sets the tone for everything that follows.
Well, let's just go to tariffs for 1 second. These tariffs are to get a level playing field for American manufacturers and American makers, because Europe and the UK have generally had much higher tariffs on our goods than we had on theirs. So he's actually giving a chance again to American manufacturing to reindustrialize, which we hope the UK will reindustrialize as well. And those
but it could well end up in it could end in an economic war, though, couldn't it?
Of trillions of dollars of new investment coming into the United States and rebuilding our economy after decades of really our middle class suffering, like the UK middle class has been suffering as well.
Okay, but we've got the prospect of a trade war here. We've got the prospect of Donald Trump threatening to invade a NATO ally. I mean, is he detached from reality?
Notice the pivot. Empire building becomes tariffs. Aggression becomes manufacturing.
He's well grounded in reality, the reality that our friend Denmark, an original NATO member country, will never be able to defend or develop Greenland. It's like owning a house that's too expensive for you. You can't afford to keep it up. You can't afford to take care of it. And people are breaking in. You have to sell it to someone who can afford it. And
but
that's what's happening here.
Denmark says it's quite able to look after its own backyard, and they should know, and it should be their decision, shouldn't it?
This is where the mask slips. Greenland isn't a partner, it's property.
Well, but so I will share with you, they're not being honest with you. When I was the US ambassador, they had about 30 guys in Greenland and 2 dog sleds. And this is the world's largest island, 1/3 the size of the continental US, with not enough knowledge of what's above, on, and below the seas, the giant seas. This is the GI-UK gap. Greenland, Iceland, and the Faroe Islands are really near your Shetland Islands. And Denmark has not a chance. They just don't have the resources. You have to understand, they're not capable of taking care of this asset. They're not capable of developing it on behalf of the Greenlandic people, which have told me to my face, if the US doesn't invest in us, we'll go to China. Money has no color. So they don't have the wisdom to understand what is a safe investment and what is an unsafe investment.
No data, no proof, just insult disguised as expertise.
You said you didn't have a crystal ball to know what's going on inside the president's head, which is understandable. But we get a sort of sense, don't we, from this letter he sent to, or text to the Norwegian Prime Minister, suggesting he's threatening war because he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, it's the kind of thing a toddler would say, isn't it?
Well, that's what I think when I see these onesies, twosies, these soldiers that go to Greenland to give the middle finger to President Trump from our NATO allies, countries that send 1 soldier or 5 soldiers. What are they thinking? Why wouldn't they say, how can we work with you, President Trump? And as for the Prime Minister of Denmark, she never picked up the phone and called the president for a whole year. And instead, she went behind his back to try to get help from, heads of state who still aren't capable of defending their own territories.
Donald Trump wanted the Peace Prize. He's clearly very put out that he hasn't got it. So why on earth does he then invite one of the biggest warmongers of this century, President Putin, onto his so-called board of peace? It's madness, isn't it?
Mockery replaces argument. That's not strength. That's weakness. Here comes the moral inversion.
Well, I think it's kind of brilliant. I like the idea of bringing together a team. Once you have someone like a Vladimir Putin in the room, he's going to be working with allies instead of hugging up to China. China is an existential threat to absolutely our alliance. It's not Russia. Russia has an economy. I mean, it's like one of our medium-sized states in the United States. They
but
don't
Belarus,
have
Kazakhstan, I mean, a bunch of autocrats. What have they got to say about peace?
Well, Kazakhstan is coming to the West rather than turning to the East, rather than turning to the Chinese Communist Party. We're now doing energy deals with Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is going to help to supply Europe with energy, not Russia. That's a win.
Calling this brilliant tells you everything. Russia is minimized. China is inflated. Reality is rewritten.
But if you look at what President Trump is trying to achieve in the Western Hemisphere, what he did, the magnificent outcome in Venezuela, and that blocks China from getting, they were getting 65 to 80% of the Venezuelan oil. What he's doing with Iran, Iran is supplying most of the Iranian oil goes at a discount to China.
Right.
So this is geopolitical stuff. And we need our allies in NATO to come alongside and say, how can we work with you, President Trump? We are with you. We understand you are trying to get us in a more safe situation, both the United States and our European allies.
Carla Sands, thank you very much for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Failure is now sold as victory. Polite goodbye. Rotten substance. This wasn't just an interview. This was a window into how the MAGA worldview actually operates when it's put under pressure. You saw it in real time. Every direct question was dodged. Every moral line was blurred. Every ally was treated as disposable. A NATO country was described like a neglected shed. A dictator invading Europe was described like a misunderstood genius. That isn't realism. That isn't strategy. That is moral collapse. This is a pattern. When power is worshipped, democracy becomes an inconvenience. When loyalty is demanded, truth becomes optional. When strongmen are admired, allies become obstacles. You felt the evasions. You heard the excuses. You watched a former ambassador struggle to justify the unjustifiable. This is why trust is gone. Because if people at the top can't even admit that threatening allies is wrong, if they can't say plainly that dictators aren't brilliant, then nothing else they promise means anything. You deserve better than this. So ask yourself, is this incompetence or cowardice? Would you trust people like this to run the country? If you want more breakdowns like this, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell